John and I are grateful for your continued listening and feedback
and support.
and support. This is our 10th over 10th segment, and we are thrilled for your consistent support. Tonight, our topic is bosses and teachers. Good boss, good teacher. Bad boss, bad teacher. Although I don't like the word bad. I guess what we're trying to say, those that weren't so great.
And how they impact or impacted our lives.
Right. And I am sure most of you have had at least one of these or both in your lifetime. So, Ramsathan, welcome.
Yes, Sloppy Lynn. Hi, thank you for having me back. I appreciate it. I have to say, our 10th podcast, that really is a milestone. Because after the first one, I thought we were done. I did not think that we were going to be continuing on. I thought your friends and family and listeners and were just going to despise me, that you would be rid of me like some sort of cancerous tumor. But we're back. We're back at number 10, and we're going strong. So
yes,
everything good.
Right? Yes. Allow me to formally introduce you properly. I barely got the first name in, and you cut me off before I mentioned.
I'm going to try to behave myself a lot better.
It's so important, John, because you're always right. I just love your name.
I'm going to try to behave better if you're okay with that. I mean, I think I've been a little, sometimes a little off the rails, especially during our ranting and raving, our last two sessions, because that's usually where I shine, because I'm such a complainer and I get aggravated so easily by everything. So that was my sweet spot. Mm-hmm. But now we're on to a different topic, and we're going to get into that. But I want to share one thing with you and our listeners, if you don't mind. Are you okay with that? I know I always ask out of courtesy. I'm sorry for being nice. You see how sweet I am. Can't you tell from all of our podcasts how nice and sweet and what a pure heart I have?
Ramsathan,
yes.
When I'm not okay with something, I will tell you.
Okay.
So please go ahead and be.
But I'm concerned about how you would tell me. Would just all of a sudden I just feel a slap on my face, or how would I know you're not okay? No, just walk away, you leave.
Can I finish my point? I'll say something
gotcha.
Like that.
Okay, fair enough. So I live with someone who has a weird type of fetish. My wife Karen, she loves popping pimples. Isn't that weird?
Did she pop this one?
Yeah. So we're gonna get to that. So in fact, I think on YouTube there's a Dr. Pimple Popper. Stop staring at it. I know that it's there. It's gonna take a few days to heal after it pops. Okay, so this is part of my complaints. All right, so my wife, she'll be looking at me and not making eye contact. She'll be staring at something and go, "What are you looking at?" She's like, "Oh, nothing. No." And I'm like, "No, Karen, what were you looking at?" She's like, "Okay, fine. There's a pimple that I really want to pop." And she all of a sudden it sounds like she's salivating, drooling over it. It's a very weird thing. So so she calls it going into surgery. That's our code for she's got a pimple to pop. We're going into surgery. Now, my complaint is not that she's a bad pimple popper. She actually pops pimples very nicely, but it's her bedside manner that bothers me. You know how a surgeon can be a wonderful surgeon, but then he just never checks on you after the surgery. You never hear from him again, and that's the end of it. It's like a bad bedside manner.
Is she a boss or is she a teacher?
Oh, neither. We're going to get into that. I just want to clarify why I'm starting with this podcast angry. So she popped two pimples, at one here and one here, and she was salivating. She loved it. And then no follow through, no bedside manner, no checking. How you doing? Let me see how the patient is. Nothing. It's like she got what she wanted. She got that big ball of pus that shot out, and that was the end of it. And she walked away.
So gross. And this is what we're starting with.
I just wanted to clear the air and tell you why I was starting off angry.
You think you go low. You go lower.
You have no idea how low I can go. Anyway, subterranean. That's how low I can go. Mm-hmm. Subterranean basement.
Jeez. Anyway.
So let me ask you a question. I don't, being that we don't really socialize or talk much off the air, in terms of school, like with teachers and stuff like that, where did you even go to school? Like, what? I don't even know what country you went to school in.
I went to school on Sundays and holidays.
Why? Only?
Really? Jonathan?
What does that even mean?
Not the sharpest stack in the pack. Who goes to school? Who teaches anyone on Sundays and holidays?
No, there are schools that have Sunday school. When I lived in Israel for a year, we had school on
I
Sundays.
went to school in Guyana. I grew up in a very small town on the very tip top of South America that borders Venezuela. And that's where I have my formative education.
Communist Venezuela.
Oh, God. Can we stick to the topic?
Okay, go ahead.
So I'd like to start with a great boss, though.
Oh, okay. So you're skipping school. You're just going right to adulthood.
To school.
Okay.
But my what I wanted to talk about first tonight was my great boss.
Current, former.
No, she is probably the only female boss I had who liked me.
Oh,
And she was probably the same age as my mother.
okay.
And I often wonder if that is why she liked me.
Mm.
Because this boss hired me and was very invested in me making a success of the position for which I was hired to fill.
Which was what?
I was being a marketing director for a company.
Okay.
And she gave me all the support and everything I needed to succeed at it. And when I left the company, she wrote a poem for me that really made me cry. And I wish I had it with me.
I was going to say, you're not reading that poem, are you?
No, it's not that long. It's quite short, but it was beautiful. And it actually spoke to my...
So if you don't even have the poem, why are you
character.
teasing everyone? And
Because my things are not here. They're in San Francisco, as you know. But when they arrive here, I will post the poem on the podcast.
oh, okay.
I'll
Fine.
post
Fair
it.
enough.
If anybody wants to read it, they can go to the YouTube video and look below where we put all of our contact information.
Well, I, for one, will be looking forward to that poem.
You will
Yeah.
see it. That's
Can
what
I tell you about a very scarring event I had? Let's really like officially open it this way. You know, school. Let's talk about school, okay? Because let's start from youth to adulthood. Let's kind of go in that order. So that would kind of involve starting with school and teachers, if you don't mind. Are you okay with that?
Here.
Okay, so you know, the thing about school, and I have a lot of friends that are teachers, you know, my parents are teachers and just socialize with a lot of teachers. You know, I don't know if teachers really realize how serious their job is. And I'm not making a joke out of that. When you take children into this school building, you are now becoming the person that creates the largest impression on these impressionable children, right? Other than parents, it's teachers in those formative years that really make the biggest difference in the kids' lives. And I think a lot of teachers look at, and I could be wrong, but I know a lot of teachers that I know, a lot of them just look at it as a job, you know, just going, I'm getting paid, I'm doing this and that. But I don't think they realize just how important their role is in the formation of that individual child and what the difference is between the way they act and the way they teach and the way they handle the children, how it actually makes an enormous difference over the course of the children's life, especially in those early formative years. So I want to share one scarring incident, because I think we tend to remember the bad things a lot more than we remember the good things. No?
What is that? It's so true, but why?
Because I think there's a friend of mine that has this quote that she always says when something happens that it's serious. It made such an indelible mark. Do you know who that person is?
Yes, it's me. And I said,
I didn't even heard of the word indelible before I met you.
there are many words you hadn't heard of before you met me. That's only one of them.
No, that's true. I have a list though.
I would say that when I say something has left an indelible mark, it's not necessarily bad though.
Oh, no, I
Usually,
understand, yeah.
the things that leave indelible marks on my mind, well, actually both.
They're significant,
Yes.
whether good or bad.
And this is why they just like take up a residence in my consciousness. And whenever I think of a situation, they pop back up.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. So you know, and we go back, like I mentioned on one of the prior podcasts, how this teacher in school, because I was a behavior problem, told me to sit near the radiator because it's hot and see what it's like to burn in hell. But and it's funny. But the thing is, think about it. It's 40 years later, and I still remember that. Like, you know, maybe he shouldn't have said that. I don't know.
An indelible mark.
It did. So, but that's what I'm saying. When kids are young, whether there's 5-year-olds in nursery or whether they're 10-year-olds in 5th grade, I think teachers really need to look at their positions and understand that the things that they do and the things that they say really are marinating with these children and helping to form their personalities and their and influence their behaviors. So I remember one time, I think we were in fourth grade or fifth grade. There was this kid. I'm not going to use last names. This kid Nathan. That really is his first name. But and again, if I need to phone a friend to confirm any of these stories because you don't believe me, let me know and I'll do that.
Listen, I believe you, Jonathan.
Okay. So they called the entire grade down to the cafeteria, and this principal, his name was well, I shouldn't even say it. Should I say it?
Yeah, why not?
Rabbi Besser. He was a rabbi. I remember I went to a Jewish school, a private school. So all these experiences with Rabbi this and Rabbi that. So Rabbi Besser he was in the kitchen and he opened that sliding window up, like a roll up window in the cafeteria.
Mhm.
And we were all sitting in the cafeteria and he was sitting in the kitchen with this kid, Nathan. And all of a sudden he says, Nathan, the reason we're here today is because Nathan had used foul language today and was cursing. And now I'm going to teach all of you what happens when you curse in school. And he proceeded to take hand soap, rub it all over his hand, and stuff his hand in this kid Nathan's mouth and wash his mouth out with soap.
Wait, that's abuse, no?
Well, in today's day and age, of course, you would immediately be arrested for something like that and probably sentenced to jail and lose your teacher's license and be ostracized. But at that time, I mean, again, I'm 50, so we're talking about 40 years ago, in the late 70s or early 80s. These types of behaviors were not necessarily frowned upon, or they were kind of acceptable for teachers to instill some sort of discipline. But nowadays, it's not, because nowadays we're raising a generation. Well, that'll kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent. I'll just say we're in a very different society now, and I think that a lot of the good, not that was a good thing, but it did.
Well, did anybody do that after he had?
No, that's what I'm saying. Yes,
it was a good thing.
There was a positive. I mean, not for Nathan, it wasn't, but because he was humiliated, and none of us forgot about that.
Right.
And again, 40 years later, I'm still remembering. But it did instill in all of us a lesson that there are ramifications for behavior.
Exactly.
And I think in society now, not just in school with children, but in society even as adults, I think that people don't understand that there are ramifications for behavior, whether it's criminal behavior, whether it's good behavior, because the society it's very different now than it used to be. Mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily even mean that in a good way in many instances. Do you disagree with that?
No, I agree with you. But, as horrific as these types of behaviors sound, they were effective. Because when you saw someone enduring that, you knew you were not going to be the other person that would be put in that situation. So, no, I hear what you're saying. And
it was a very powerful visual that it left an indelible mark on my brain. Of course, and even with other friends that were there, we still kind of laugh about it every so often and bring it up. But how crazy is that all those years later? And that's a memory that's carried with you.
And, I agree with you when you were saying about teachers, but I think teachers, like nurses, like doctors, like every other profession, when you're doing something repetitively, you develop a callousness or like an unawareness.
A nonchalantness to it.
Nonchalant, that's the word. John?
You know what that means, right? You know what nonchalant means, right?
No, I don't know.
You want me to explain it to you?
Yes, please. John.
It's sort of like a casualness.
You really don't think I don't know what nonchalant?
I don't know. I've never heard. Well, we don't socialize. How would I know what you do?
Anyway, so here's the thing, though. This is just like case in point. You know how you said the teachers need to be conscious because they are having they are having an impact in kids' lives.
Right.
I interviewed, as you know, the co-founder of Apple on my television show.
Yeah.
And I remember...
hold on, I have to mark that down because that's the 99th time you told me that. Okay.
They're making a point. Eat your freaking heart out.
I'm eating the peanuts. Studio peanuts.
And the point is, I asked him this question when I interviewed him.
The co-founder of Apple?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's 100th time. Okay.
Surprised by his answer. I asked him who had the most impact on him as a person throughout his lifetime.
Steve Jobs?
No. His teacher, Mr. McCollum. Because he helped him build his first chipboard at 9 years old. And the way
At
he
9,
9 years old, Steve Wozniak built. Why don't you go watch the interview?
I was playing with Lego at 9, not
But
building
he
chipboard.
told me how and one of the reasons I wanted to interview him is because, you know, he is a very humble, great guy. I love him. He treats everybody the same. No chips on that shoulder. But this
The
is
big
what,
shoulders too.
but
Big
yes,
guy.
yes. And you know, I remember asking him that question, and he told me that this teacher, because he was so into building a computer, and this teacher really helped him and facilitated all his ideas and getting it put together. And the way he afforded the money to buy the chips, the material to make the chips, he used to mow lawns and deliver newspapers.
Mm.
And so when you talk about teachers having an impact,
Absolutely.
you remember that teacher for washing your friend's mouth out with soap.
Right. Are you giving an example of a good thing?
Wozniak remembers his teacher because this person played the biggest role in his life. Because could you believe it?
But it's so much more fun to talk about the bad ones.
I think we should talk. I think it's important.
Let me do one more bad one. And then I'll do a good one. I have a good one too.
But I wasn't finished mine.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go. No, this is the nice me. This is the new and improved me. Go.
When you cut me off, John, just
Sorry.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I refuse. Go ahead. No, I'm not. Go ahead. This is the new me. I don't cut you off.
Well, what I was going to say to wrap up that point is, could you imagine if he didn't have that teacher who supported his idea to build a chipboard for a computer, which back in the day, most people would probably think is crazy.
It's revolutionary.
He did it. And today you and I have an iPhone and we have all these stuff, all this Apple stuff. And it came from a little boy with an idea who had a supportive teacher. Okay, John, you can go ahead.
No. I think it's an excellent point.
Go ahead.
It's an excellent point. And if you want to watch that interview with Jennylyn and Steve Wozniak, please go to the website.
Conversations with Jennylyn. And then just plug in Steve Wozniak and the interview will come up. It's a great interview. I only got to ask 5 questions, although I had 25. Because he is so optimistic about what he does. And when he gets to talk, when he's answering a question,
Just doesn't shut up.
You know, he gets a lot of details, which I really enjoy.
So why couldn't you get him for part 2?
I never tried.
Why?
Because I'm not a pig. There's other people lined up.
You're not greedy?
And I'm not greedy.
Oh, that's good.
Plus, I saw him a lot casually, so I didn't need to, I got my questions.
Is he single?
Okay, John, carry on.
No, for me. I thought maybe I'll call him. No, actually, I did watch the interview. It's a really good interview, and it was actually very informative. And I do suggest people go. And the best part about the interview, if people go watch it, is I'm not even. It has nothing to do with me. They don't have to listen to me. It's all you. So you can't be cut off. Nothing rude. It's not from the gutter like me.
John,
it's high end, high class interview, not involving me.
I would not want to do interviews without John. He is the hot sauce in this dish.
Yeah, it just burns your throat. So I'm going to give you another funny one that also left in, and that's going to be the word of the podcast, indelible mark. So I'm in high school, right? And I had a rough time in high school. I was not very well liked by the administration in the high school. We'll get into that in a little bit if you want. But so there was this one teacher, Rabbi Teitelbaum, another rabbi, who actually became the rabbi of a major temple in my neighborhood. Anyway, so it was in like a religious studies class, and obviously in high school, it's all about, for high school kids, all about the girls and looking good and stuff like that, what you're wearing. So I was sitting at my desk and I had this little mirror at my desk, and I took out my hairbrush, started brushing my hair, and he looks at me, goes, "What are you doing?" He has this big booming voice. "What are you doing?" And I go, "I don't know, I'm brushing my hair. What's the big deal?" And he puts his hands on the desk in front of me like this, and he gets into my face, and I go, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Why are you even bothering? It all falls out." Yeah, he was completely bald. So I looked at him, I'm like, well, maybe in your case. Not very happy with my response. But again, I'll never forget that. Every time I see him, all I see is those hands banging on the desk and him getting into my face going, "It all falls out." It was so horrible. Scary. He's a very scary man. But in this high school, we did have and again, I did have a rough time. So I'll give you a little color on that. And again, this is part of, again, teachers and the marks that they leave on you. Now, this is a good one. Okay. There was a principal, his name was Rabbi Gottesman. I was very, very close with him. And I had a lot of trouble in high school. They hated me. I was very difficult. I was very rebellious. I was very problematic. I was always causing trouble, nuisance, and just, it was not pleasant to have me as a student or, or basically have me as anything in that school. So I got a call one time. I had cheated on a math test. And one of the kids ratted me out. And the teacher went to complain to the administration, and I got suspended. And I got a call from this other rabbi that this suspension was now leading to being expelled. I was thrown out, and I was in 10th grade. Now, bear in mind, this is a high school that you graduated after 11th grade. It was 9, 10, 11, you were done. No 12th grade. And I didn't want to be in high school for an extra year. So if I'm thrown out of this school, oh, that's not good. I can't graduate after 11th grade. This is going to create a whole extra year of high school. So I look at the phone as he's telling me that I'm expelled. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you can't come back. You're done. And he hung up. So I panicked. And you have to call your parents at that point. And like, that's not a pleasant call to make. Oh, hi, Ma. How you doing? And it wasn't like, give me muffins. This was like, hi. So how's your day going? I've been expelled. How about you? And like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. What did you say? Yeah, no, I just said I was expelled, but how was your day? So, I don't know why they felt they need to zero in on that comment, but they apparently was like, let me get your father. Okay, so now both my parents are on the phone. What happened? They're like, well, okay, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I have this uncle who is he has money, right? Very well known, very well respected in our community. So his name is Charlie, Uncle Charlie. So I'm like, we got to call Uncle Charlie for this. They're like, okay, we'll call Uncle Charlie. Call Uncle Charlie, tell him the whole story. Sure enough, Uncle Charlie goes to the school. He talks to this not to the rabbi that threw me out, but to the head of the school, this guy, Rabbi Gottesman, who I love. And before you know it, my Uncle Charlie and Rabbi Gottesman are best friends. And now they're figuring out charities they could coordinate together. And I get a call from Rabbi Gottesman that I'm back in school. And I come back into school, and all of a sudden they're also working on the gym ceiling, installing a new gym ceiling. And I'm like, Rabbi Gottesman, I'm like, oh, they're doing a new gym ceiling? He goes, yes, your uncle donated a gym ceiling. Wasn't that nice of him? And I'm like, oh, that's how I got back into school. Oh, I gotcha. But this is the part that made the impression. Now, Rabbi Gottesman said in a meeting with me and a number of other principals, and I get the chills every time I think about this, I say this, and I'm really being serious. He said to them, he goes, listen, he goes, because they did not want me back in school. He said, he's back in. And not only is he back in, he goes, he only answers to me, and I am responsible for him. You guys just leave him alone. If there's any problems, you come to me and I will take care of it directly with him. And he said to me, looks at me, he goes, the reason why is because you remind me of my son. He goes, and my son was a problem child, misbehaved, exactly like you, rebellious. He goes, but he turned out okay. And he goes, if he turned out okay, he goes, I know there's hope for you. And I really, I felt terrible misbehaving after that. And I kind of was pretty good for the last year of high school because of him, because I always knew his ass was on the line, and he went to bat for me against everybody's judgment that I should even be there. And it was a very emotional thing for me when he died a couple of years ago.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I spoke to his son, and I told him, I said I couldn't even go to the funeral because what he did for me, he saved me. He saved my childhood, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have ended up doing a lot of the things that I did, and a lot of the things would not have worked out for me. And I said, I couldn't even come to the funeral because I wanted to tell you this, but I would have been so emotional telling you. I could only tell you over the phone. And I told him the story. And I feel like I'm getting choked up when I say it. And his son even was tearing up over it, because that just showed how special he was, not only to me, but he did things like that for everybody. And he was just such a special guy. So again, another example of a good example of how a teacher or a principal or an administrator, they really, when they go to bat for you and they do good things, that they really can alter the entire trajectory. You know what that word means, right? of the way this particular individual, in this case me,
check my words and come back and ask me if I know.
Anyway, I wanted to share that because that was a very heartfelt story about someone that really took that job seriously and that responsibility seriously of changing people's lives for the better.
Well, the teacher who I think had the most impact on me growing up was not my math teacher, although he taught me math. He was my math teacher as well as my drama teacher.
Mm.
And I loved theatrics. I think it's innate.
You still do. You're very theatrical and dramatic.
It's innate. And so at a very young age, we had the school where I grew up, we had a lot of like local concerts. And they would give us a script and I'd embellish and make it even funnier.
Mhm.
And there was one time
Improvising.
and he didn't really hold me responsible if I didn't stick to the script. Because like you, I was always rebellious, but in the opposite way.
Hmm.
Because I would do things they tell me not to do because I could see I should do it. And they couldn't see that I should do it, but I do
But
it.
not in a bad way,
Yeah.
like me.
I do it, and everybody be like, "Oh, I'm so glad you did that." And one of them was my father didn't allow me to jump. He didn't think girls should high jump. He didn't think it was a good thing for women. I'm not going to say why, because I know that's a topic for another podcast.
The more you don't want to say why, I think the more I want to know why.
So we had this like, and I've gone off topic, but real quick, I was part of our school. We broke the school up into 3 sections, and we had athletic competitions. And my house was winning, except there's no one to jump at one of the high jump events.
Mhm.
I'd never practiced, and I thought even if I score 1 point, it's better than none. So I went and jumped and won.
Hmm.
I won the competition, although I'd never tried. And I knew then that I had it in me to do a lot of things if I put my mind to it. Because I remember just looking at the post thinking, if she cleared it, I can clear it. And that's how I won.
Hmm.
Well, similarly, he entered me in a drama competition when I was 10 years old.
Right.
And I had to be a man.
You had to be a man?
Yes. I dramatized a poem called Banana Man. It's from the Caribbean. I'm sure you've heard of V.S. Naipaul. No, you wouldn't, because you're not from the West Indies.
No, I'm from the gutter.
But he had written a great book, and one of the poems, and there was the Banana Man, because banana is one of the industries in Guyana that brings in a lot of money for a lot of families. And so he took my hair, and I had long curly hair, and he stuck it inside of a hat. We put my father's shirt on me and his pants. We had to get a couple of belts to hold it up.
I'm starting to get a very disturbing image.
And I went on stage with this bunch of bananas. I actually physically had a bunch of bananas. And all the schools in the area where I grew up, they all like converged in this one big auditorium for this competition. And the reason I won is this teacher, and he is the one I'm going to give the credit to for my drive. He told me, "You're better than all of them out there, and you're going to go and win this competition." And hands down, I won. And then I went to the city where I performed at the National Cultural Center.
Mm.
And it was a big deal because I won there too, and my name was all over the radio. This is a big deal for my family and for me. And that's when I realized that your teacher can either
make you or break you.
And he made me realize that I had a whole lot inside of me. And if I just really tried, I could do it. So I know you give me crap for all the things I've done, but I always credit my drive and my tenacity to him.
I have drive, but I put it in reverse. I go backwards.
No, John, you like to put yourself down. You're a great guy.
You go drive forward, I drive backwards. Is there anything wrong with sometimes I'm in neutral. Sometimes I'm in neutral, just staying and spinning and like buffering. How the thing buffers and just spins around.
You're in control of the stick, the gears. You just shift them where you want them. Those people who love you will love you.
Wait, the teachers and the bosses, they're the ones that control the gears on you.
Mm-hmm. But I will say one more teacher story, and then I'll let you. During the pandemic.
What pandemic?
The COVID pandemic.
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember that. No recollection of that.
Teacher in San Francisco was on the news because her graduating class could not have their graduation celebration because of the pandemic. You know what she did? She got a handwritten note and a rose and drove to each child's home and dropped off the rose and the card.
That's a teacher.
Seriously.
No, that's amazing. Yeah.
And she did this. And every single student in her class, if she couldn't hand deliver it, she had it mailed to them. And I know that there's some teachers who've really messed kids up. I've had experience with a couple myself. But you notice how in your case you remember the bad stuff.
Right.
And me, the good stuff is what stands out for me. But this teacher is the kind of person I would have wanted to teach me or my children, because that shows you how invested she was in those kids that she taught.
No, that's an amazing story. I love hearing the good things. Unfortunately, most of the bad things get publicized, like, teachers having relationships with students and weird things. I don't think the good ones get enough attention, but the media loves the bad stuff because that's what attracts.
Well, you mentioned relationships. What do you think of the French prime minister? He married a teacher.
Macron?
Yeah.
It's kind of hot, actually. Well, it actually leads into what I was going to say, and that's over here, because I did take some notes. Normally, I don't really take notes, but the last two podcasts I do, because I find I just spiral into different directions if I don't try to stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about Macron. Young boys in school, I mean, I don't know if you know this, and I don't mean to betray the male gender. Are we allowed to say male gender anymore? Is that even like a thing?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, yeah. The male gender. Young boys, they always have sort of like this, I guess, is kind of this sexual thing for teachers when they're little. And
Did you? Yeah.
I did. We may have to edit this portion out. So, we're going to mark now. So, yeah, because, you're like a 10, 11-year-old kid. And then all of a sudden, like, you have this beautiful teacher. I'll never forget this teacher, Mrs. Wolfson, I think was her name. She's a Hebrew teacher. Gorgeous, stunning.
And then I don't have to edit.
It's okay. She's passed away. But yeah, she did. She had pancreatic cancer and died in like 6 weeks when she found out. It was terrible. But she was beautiful. I remember like all the boys, I guess we were maybe 11 or 12 years old, just staring at this beautiful statuesque teacher. But that's also, I think that's a normal thing. But that's also part of the formative time and growing up and all of a sudden realizing your not masculinity, because your little, shit boy, 11 years old, doesn't even have like armpit hair. But that's part of the evolving process and part of how little boys learn. I don't know how it is for girls when it comes to male teachers, but that was just something that I always found interesting. So yeah, I did have a lot of crushes like that. And I think that starts the beginning process of male-female relationship, which today, by the way, that is one of the things that really bothers me about school now. And I think I did mention this on one of the previous podcasts, and this I'm sure will alienate more of your listeners, but this kind of indoctrinating of students in school these days and trying to get them desensitized to things that in the past were kind of viewed as not things you expose children to, whether it's these drag queen shows or talking about sexuality at young ages and transgender and, gay relationships and trying to kind of like normalize that for children, for that next generation, because maybe the last generation is too far gone to change their minds. But part of that indoctrinating children is to try to influence them to accept certain things as being like, this is normal, this is how society is. I'm not, certain people will say that's good, certain people say that's bad. Personally speaking, I think that it degrades everything about society, but that's kind of what we're dealing with, the new normal now in school. And I think that's also one of those polarizing situations that the left and the right have about school.
I think in this world, we have too many stereotypes, too many judgments, too many boxes, too many parameters. Humans have to be humans. And look, we have to have law so we can have law and order. Otherwise, if we were living in a lawless society, if we think it's bad now, it would be insane. But I think it's normal for a young boy to have a crush on his teacher. I think it's normal for a teacher to have a crush on some kids.
But it's not normal for them to act on it.
Exactly.
Maybe in certain societies it is, but not in like normal societies, especially underage stuff.
There's so many things that myself, have judged the hell out of until I found myself in the same situation. And I'm like, wait, I didn't.
You fell in love with a teacher?
No. I'm just like making a parallel of when you judge something or when you think something is bad and you find yourself in the situation.
Right.
Like there's so many things in my life I said I would never do. Right? And then
I don't know. What are you asking me? Right? How do I know?
you ever said you're not going to do something or judge the hell out of something, then you found yourself doing it?
Absolutely not.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot I'm doing the podcast with the holy trail.
Of course. That's what human life is. Just evolving and changing, and we're always doing things that we thought we would never do, whether good or bad. Absolutely, yes.
So it's very sad because I have a whole different perspective on all of this, but that's for another podcast.
What's that topic going to be?
Are you making a list?
I have a list. Yes.
So, okay, we talk a lot about teachers. I want to talk about a bad boss that I had.
Wait, before you do, okay, fine. Go ahead.
No. You have something to say?
No.
Go ahead.
No, it's something that it's entered my mind that my daughter said that was very funny.
Okay, hold on. Unless you want to.
No.
So.
The old me would have cut you off and just gone right into it. The new me, very nice, very respectful. Please go ahead.
We like him. Maybe we're going to change the first name. Let's see. Let's see how it goes.
I have to earn it.
How long this is going to. The wonderful Jonathan is going to hang around.
I just want to prove to you that I'm not from the gutter. That left an indelible mark on me, that comment.
Really, the gutter thing?
No, I don't care. Go ahead.
So, I had a medical director that I worked for years ago. When I liquidated my clinic, he knew I wasn't working because I just liquidated the clinic. And they were looking for a marketing director at the medical company where he worked. So he told them, oh, I know this great marketer. She's great. She's worked with me over the years, blah, 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 interview her. So he called me and said, send them your resume. They're going to interview you. In the meantime, he thinks he's selling me to this woman. He's like, oh, she has a great television show. She's interviewed a lot of really, important people. She had her own clinic. She's done marketing, blah, blah, blah. He thinks he's selling me. He was making her hate me. So I show up
for the competitive woman thing.
Yeah, I think she saw me as a threat. So I show up for the interview, and I could tell before I opened my mouth, this woman didn't like me.
Right.
And I had the experience they're looking for. I'd started my own company. I started it from scratch.
Right.
So clearly I was bringing a lot of skills to the job. She did not hire me. And he's the medical director. So he asked her, why didn't you hire her? She was the most qualified candidate.
Right.
And she said, I didn't have the particular experience that she was looking for. So whatever. They hired someone else. A week later, he calls me up and says, that person they hired didn't work out. Would you come back?
So you're back.
I go, no, did they hire me the first time? I don't want to go.
Stop having so much pride. Take the job.
No. So I went back, and I could tell this time it was her and two men. So I got hired because women don't like to hire me. I don't know why. So I got the job, right?
I think women don't like confident women.
I think that might be what it is. And I don't know how not to be me. Let's put it that way.
I don't like confident women either.
So I started the job.
Confident women.
I started the job, and I went out in the field, right? And I had no business cards. They gave me no business cards, no brochures. They said we have nothing. So could you imagine you're a marketer?
Take your confidence and get out there and do something. We're not helping you.
Hello, my name is Jane Doe, and I work for blah, blah, blah company. But I have nothing to give you. Look at my face. Don't forget me, right? So he comes by my office the next day, the medical director, who told him, to interview, who recommended me. And he goes, so how was your first day? I go, well, it was okay, but I went marketing with no marketing material. I don't have a brochure or a business card. So
you were marketing you.
I said, so based on my experience, to me, it's wasted time because those people won't remember me. And he jokingly said, nobody forgets you, Jenny, right? But I'm not marketing me. I'm marketing them. So he went into her and said, this is adding fuel to the fire.
Right.
How could you send her out marketing with nothing? And so that was it. She had it in for me then. First of all, she hired a girl who on paper sounds like is better than her, right? And then the medical director is like her yo-yo. He's going to come and tell them anytime something goes wrong, right? This is going on in her head. And she made my life a living hell. We were going to Ohio for training, me and some new hires.
Right.
But I was going out after work this particular Friday. I was wearing thigh-high boots, which I love in the winter because I wear 2 pairs of socks in it. Nobody knows. Not everyone does. And
That's not unusual, but a lot of women do that, you know.
and I was wearing a skirt that came up above my knees when I sat down.
Mm.
And she walked in and she looked at me, and I could tell she just hated me. She just hated the way I look. I was going out after work, so I was put together nicely. And she turns and looks at me, and the door to my office is open, so everybody outside could hear her. And she goes, Jennylyn, people in Ohio do not dress like you. You need to dress down, like bring some dress down clothes. And by the way, in this company, we're not allowed to wear our skirts above our knees.
Ooh,
And I said,
that was harsh.
but my skirt is not above my knee. When everyone sits down, if they're wearing a knee length skirt, it comes above the knee. And I said,
I'll argue with someone that doesn't like you. That's good.
no. And then I looked at her and I was so angry. I could feel the tears coming. And she was like the boss, the top boss.
Right.
But I had a boss beneath her. And he was sitting there and he heard the whole thing. And I stood up and I looked at him and I go, is my skirt above my knee? And he just looked at me.
That was a comfortable position for him to be in, sure.
Files in my briefcase, and I just stormed out of that office and I went to my car and I just started bawling.
Wait, what files did you have? You had no marketing pieces. You had no nothing. It was an empty file cabinet.
This happened after.
Oh, later on. Okay, I didn't understand the order.
Maybe 2 or 3 weeks after.
Oh, okay.
So I go in my car and the anger, I was like, she hates my friggin' guts. And this job is never going to go anywhere because this woman doesn't like me and she's running this boat.
So if we fast forward, did this job go anywhere?
No, I called my boss and I go, I am being discriminated against. She sabotages everything I try to do.
Right.
And I can't do a job if the people who are supposed to be team players with me are sabotaging me.
Right.
This cannot go on. I'm going to go write a letter to HR.
Oh, you're one of those. A complainer.
I'm not a complainer, but I've had so many different isolated cases. So one day I was with another co-worker and we both needed her to sign a document for projects we were working on in order for it to go through and for me to gain the business, which is what I did.
Right.
I got business for them. My girlfriend called, she picked up the phone and she signed whatever and sent it back. I called, she didn't pick up my call, and we were sitting together.
Ugh.
So anyway, long and short of the story, I got hurt.
Emotionally?
No, I got physically hurt
okay.
at work. I hurt my back.
Oh, yeah, you remember you told me this. Yeah.
Same job. And so, talk about a bad boss. What ended up happening is she left the company before I did. But I have to tell you that I am very good at my job, or anything I take. If I accept a responsibility, you can count on me to deliver what you've hired me for. I'll do my job and other people's jobs. It's got to get done if I have the time.
Right.
Let's do it. With her, I've never worked in a place where I felt like I was stupid. I felt like I couldn't do anything.
Because she created a hostile environment.
On everything.
Right. Maybe she felt threatened.
She did. That could be. I even, you know what I did? Because I had a clinic. I put together some beauty products in a nice bag that I used to sell in the clinic.
Right.
And when I closed, I had a lot of inventory. So I put great, expensive products, brought them to work, and gave them to her. Because you know me, if you hate me, I'll kill you with kindness. You see me do this before.
I have seen you do that, yes.
Here in the studio with other people.
Yes.
And
even with me, yes.
And she took it, and I won't be surprised when I went home if she threw it in the trash. But the whole point of telling you this, she was such a horrible boss that toward the end of my time in the office, I would pull up in the parking lot and sit in my car and cry and go, God, why are you sending me in there?
Well, that sounds like a fun way to start your day every day.
It was.
Yes.
That's exactly how I started. And you want to know? This woman caused me so much pain that if I drive anywhere near that office,
You have PTSD.
serious, it's not
I have
even
that from a former
funny.
employer also.
It's not even funny. So I just have to share that because I talked about the great bosses, but when you have a bad boss,
So I'm going to balance that. Can I balance that with a good
Sure.
boss story?
sure.
So at a job that I had started out of college, I had joined this company, and I had these two managers. I'm going to say the first names, Marty and Fred. It's two guys, and I almost call it being raised in this company, not employed there. I felt like these two guys were my business fathers. They cared about everything that you did. They helped you. They facilitated. They showered you with anything that they can to help you succeed. They knew your family. They knew your parents. They knew your spouses. They knew when you had children. They knew who your kids were. They would give baby gifts. They would just so doting bosses is how I refer to them. And I don't believe that I would have been successful in the career that I'm in now had I not been raised in an environment with people that were that caring and loving and really just everything good and everything positive. Also, both of them recently passed away, one about 6 months ago, one about maybe 3-4 years ago. And when they died, I almost felt like I was losing a parent. They were amazing people. But my point that I'm bringing out is even at work, like we talk about school, let me just shift gears a little bit to work, like you were talking about, having the right people in the positions of power that are not adversarial. In fact, the opposite. They're doting, they're loving, and they are caring, and they want you to succeed can be all the difference in the world. We talked about how, kids are raised properly through school and how it impacts their lives through early on in your career, in these formative years when you're working. You're done with college, done with school, and now you're thrown into this other environment, this work environment. You have to navigate and learn how to deal with coworkers. You're not dealing with, with students, peers anymore. You're dealing with coworkers, a whole different dynamic. And to be having the privilege of having been raised by these people, I think that also set me on the path to succeed in the career that I'm in now. So I'd love to give both of them a big hug. I mean, every time I saw them, I did, even when they retired. But they were just amazing people, and that really was so helpful to me in my career path. Also, they were great people. And funny thing, my daughter. Did I tell you my daughter's vegetarian?
No.
My middle daughter?
No.
So I have my son and my daughter, and then my youngest daughter. So she said something very funny. It reminded me when you were talking about having a problem with the boss, because people refer to having a problem with someone like, I have a beef with you. But my daughter's vegetarian. So we were talking the other day. She's mad at me about something. She's like, I have a soy with you. And I'm sorry. I go, what? You have a what with me? A soy? She's like, yeah, I'm vegetarian. I don't do beef. I have a soy with you. I just thought that was so funny.
It is
Totally out of context, but when you were saying problem with the boss and having a beef with them, that's what went through my mind. She had a soy with me, and we were staying with when we were on vacation recently. We went for a dinner with this hardcore vegan. I think I mentioned him the other day. A friend of mine, David, and he was also, because my daughter's vegetarian and he's vegan. It's almost like vegetarians look up to vegans. They strive, they are everything I want to be. And if I could, I would be them. So I guess the next level of vegetarianism would be a vegan. So his big thing was he doesn't like to do things that were not ethically sourced. That was his big quote. So that's what my daughter, everything now, I'll say, oh, you want to get these shoes? I don't know, were they ethically sourced? Oh, do you want this dress? Well, I don't know. Was it ethically sourced? This is become a thing in my house now. But I just thought that was so funny when she said to me she had a soy with me instead of a beef.
I think that's very cute. She's staying faithful to her vegetarian
roots.
Yep. So, John, that was the alarm, and we are out of time.
I hate that alarm. It's so irritating. I feel like it's waking me up in the morning. Do you use an alarm clock?
Yes, but mine is Alexa going, time to get up and have your coffee.
That might even be more annoying.
No, I like it.
Really?
And then she tells me the weather and how long it's going to take me to get to the office from here.
Oh, I don't want anybody doing that to me. That's horrible.
No, I like it. I get up at 5. I like starting my day.
5?
I do every day.
5 a.m.
I meditate, I exercise, I pack my lunch, I take a nice shower, I get myself put
What's
together.
the definition of a nice shower versus a regular shower? I don't understand the difference.
Shower is a long, hot one.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
What about a bath? You ever take baths?
I do, but not when I'm going to work.
Yeah.
That's when I'm gonna go to bed after.
I like bathing every so often.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, my father, the shower was broken in the bathroom. I don't know why for 30 years. I just want to say one thing. Cutting you off. You see how rude you are? Look at this role reversal. So my father used to tell us the shower was broken. So my entire life we took baths. Like, so I was just raised taking baths. So one time my wife, who we were maybe engaged at the time, and she slept over at my parents' house. And she goes, I'm taking a shower. I go, no, you can't take a shower. My father said it'll leak all over the place. We only take baths. She's like, did anybody ever try the shower? I'm like, no. She goes, well, how do you know it's true? I go, oh, it's a really good point. I have no idea. She goes, I'm taking a shower. So she takes a shower, and about 15 minutes later, I hear screaming in the bathroom. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, the water's squirting everywhere. The whole bathroom is flooding. I'm like, I guess he was right. So I don't know. I used to always take baths, but once we got married, I went fully shower, and I only go back to baths like if my back hurts or something like that, just to kind of relax. But you're right, that's not like a thing you do before work.
Okay, if I let John, the podcast won't stop.
That's true.
Thank you guys. This is number 10, and I hope that you'll enjoy it. So you have been listening to
How can you say that?
the podcast where we are raw and authentic. And we thank you for listening. And we will be back soon with segment
11.
Thank you and bye.
Wait, no, before you go, I have to say one thing. You have to edit out the part where I showed vulnerability. It was horrible. You promise you're going to edit that out?
Where you showed
Vulnerability.
When did you do
Where
that?
I got emotional talking about that Rabbi Gottesman. It was terrible.
And we will
I need
see
people
you
to think
next
I like when
time.
people hate me. I don't like when people like me.